Good morning. Two things I need to test, time and space. Can you all hear me? Yeah, and I have the help of Lighthouse Sylvia's watch to keep me in time. These are the two things which I wanted to bring, and we're not going to introduce each other today. But I just want to say that we both are not educators. And that's the only thing we have in common. So we grew last 4 days, and my deepest gratitude to every breath of this life and all that I prepared before I came here to make last 3 days happen in my life, and for all of you to recognize and then give us this opportunity for both of us to stand in front of you. Before we could even stand, we shared many things from last Monday evening, this Holy Week. We heard what was said, we heard what was not said. We saw what was visible, we saw what was not visible, and I felt the invisible threads between all of us. And that's what actually helps me to stand here. So the last 4 days preparation, I'm deeply grateful. And I also want to bring my deepest gratitude to all the children and all those parents, all those families, all my colleagues who trusted me when I put my finger up many years ago in South India, and I said, I'm going somewhere, will you all come? Yeah. Many people came, and I didn't know where I was going. And all that I asked them is, can you keep up with me? And this is from a Maori story I understood. To go into the future, to lead someone into future, we need to look back and ask the people, can you keep up? And this is what children in the spectrum did to me. When I met first time the autism, these children looked at me and asked, can you come and meet us? Not fix us so that we can meet you. And that's 20 years ago, and today in the short period, we both will share our journeys in following these children. And I should say, I'm still not keeping up. It's a great struggle, but what helped me in keeping up in following these children is the whole community. My dear colleague, Dr. Swapna Narendra here, and Michael Cockness on the other side. And I won't say that they just had the best of me, they had the worst of me, both of them. And I still have both of them. So there's hope.
Where's Swapna? Is she here?
Yeah.
Ah, thank you.
Thank you. So that's what we want to bring, the reality. Reality is we are still incomplete. And thank God for these children. They showed me that to be human is to be incomplete. To be human is to be imperfect. Before I met them, I was a perfect neonatal intensivist. Today, I'm a mess. So that's why I can't even introduce myself or Michael, because when I'm talking about myself, I'm talking about Michael. When I'm talking about Michael, I'm talking about myself. Yeah. So you will hear me whole next 1 hour between me and Michael, the dance. So we're not going to do formal introduction because I come from, if I have to start my introduction, I start my introduction of our stories many incarnations before. And my first memory in this incarnation was when I was 3, when I told my grandmother, there are 2 people whom I need to meet. Give me good food and make me strong to meet these 2 people. And I'm so glad, I'm so grateful. I was awake when these 2 people came into my life. One was my first daughter. She came 26 years ago to me. I still don't understand her. And the second was Michael. He came into my life 12 years ago. I don't know him. But I do know him from my pre-birth meeting. I'm still trying to learn who Michael is from this incarnation in these senses. And that's what makes life exciting, and that's what I want to present today.
And no, is that it? Oh.
Yep.
Okay, so thank you, Lakshmi. And yes, I'm very grateful to be not a kindergarten teacher, but to have my life full of Waldorf kindergarten is such a wonderful blessing. So I never expected to stand here and share this story. And what I'd like to do after the introduction is to introduce you to the children that Lakshmi and I worked with. So we have quite a lot of information on some pictures and some words. So please make sure, if you can't read, to move yourself so you can see. And Jessie, can we get this prepared now? So as the picture comes, you'll see a classroom or a class of children. And I ask you just to I invite you just to meet these children while the darkness comes. And I'll move this. I'll move this one. Can you move them? Oh. Oh, yes. I didn't put that there. Here. It's interesting, chaos comes into the space, because when you look at this picture, it's actually, it's like this. It's actually a frozen moment of chaos. So I'm happy. Yes. Steinosaurus. So you can see this is a school in South India. I'm on the left, on your right there. Dr. Lakshmi's in yellow, and there's Dr. Swapna with the pink. And we had all these children. This is in Hyderabad in South India. We have 2 doctors. I'm a physiotherapist, and I brought my friend also, Cameron. He's a very tall guy from Australia on the other side, also a therapist with hands. And all the children, and no teachers. None of those ladies are teachers. They're all mothers. So doctors, therapists, mothers, and many of the mothers became teachers. And you can see the adults at the back who are conscious. This is a photograph, and looking at the camera, but look at the children. Are any of them looking at the camera? I don't think one. Most of these children were uneducatable. They couldn't be accepted in any school. So when I met Lakshmi in 2006, I had a surprise bonus gift of all these children. All these children, we lived in the house, the children were at school on the first floor. There was a medical clinic, a school, and then the house on the top and on the bottom. So we lived with these children every day. And we struggled. One of these children is here. Oh, come maybe at the back. His name is Atman. Can you see this? So and you can see a certain look in his eyes. So when he's agitated, he's doing this, and he's flicking and hitting the bone here. And sometimes he was doing this so powerfully and bringing blood. Can you see scars. And he would, so most of these children were diagnosed autism spectrum, and quite severe. So no words, no speech. And I think in this presentation, I'm going to show some of the children who are the most severe. Because in the curative education idea, when we meet these children with the more severe difficulties, hindrances, we learn something about all children. So I was working with him. I had a room with a massage table. I'm a physiotherapist and I'm working with touch and trying to help this boy who's scratching himself, rocking, making a lot of sounds and no words. And I was asking myself, you know, why does a child do this? Why is a child hitting the head, the cheek, this moaning, even to the point to bring blood? How could he do that? What is the inner experience of you? What is happening? And you know, every day I met this child, I really didn't know. I knew less and less what's happening and why this behaviour. And one thing I learned with these children is when I work as a physical therapist, you know, I use the hands to do something physically in the same way that this happened, you know. But one thing I learned is if I was using my hands in a way that was impinging the freedom of these children, you know, we have to, as therapists, push into the body. It's interesting, isn't it? Not so much as a teacher, but as a therapist, we do something to push. And even the teachers and the parents, we all push our thoughts, we push our feeling into the other person, in a way. Does that make sense? Yeah? But we do it as therapists physically, and the doctors might do it with a medicine. But what I learned from Atman was, if you push anything into me, I go further away from you. So I learned really to be anthroposophic in terms of respecting the freedom of these children from these children. I learned it in my mind from anthroposophy, but I learned it practically struggling with these sensitive children, because I really felt what I can't do, what I mustn't do, is impinge on their freedom with my thoughts, with my feelings, or with my hands. Because they sense that and they disappear. They go away. So my hands, for me, had to become ears, listening. And so I would just use my hands to listen to this boy on the body, and gradually he started to come to the therapy room. He would take my hand and he would put my hand on his body where he needed. He would come upset, agitated from the school, something happened, bleeding, scratching, and then he would put his hand here or there or something. Surprising things he did, surprising things. Sometimes gentle, sometimes very, very firm. And then he would calm down, arms down, and he would walk back to Dr. Swapna into the school and sit with the children. So I learned to change my structure completely. It's so interesting, this water falling down and creating the chaos, because that's how it was. Always chaos. But I had to change what I did, and that's what I want to say. I had some idea of myself as a therapist. It had to change. And I think Lakshmi also suggested that. I started off as a pediatrician, and now I'm a mess. She said. Really, honestly, that's this journey. And it's so interesting to hear Christoph speak of polarization, fragmentation. And I think these children bring this quality to us. And we have to do something. And I bring this quote, which came already in this conference, the conditions of esoteric training, knowledge of higher worlds. We have to acquire the conviction that the real human being is on the inside. So with Atman and these children, I had no idea, who is this child? I had no idea. And with these sensitive children, even if you forget your exercises, your morning meditation, they bring this meditation by their existence. They bring this to us. They, in a way, they push us on the path. And this was my experience. So after Sandipani, this first school, we travelled to Chennai, and this school was a mainstream school. So you can see from the pictures, that's not a Waldorf school, right? You can see that. And the director had a doctorate from America, and there were 300 children with autism. That's a real chaos in that building. Can you imagine? That's really a big problem in there. 300 autistic children. And this school is very close to Adyar in Chennai, where the Theosophical Society headquarters are. We would visit there. So South India again. And in this school, some children we worked with the teachers, we worked with the management. Now they are working with a Waldorf curriculum, very deeply. But when we first met this school, there was lots of rules, no running. And I remember this one, no hugging. No hugging, because the children were so sensory. And we had to really work with this challenge of modern behaviour management. So they were doing a lot of behaviour management programs. As these children grew up, some of these children learnt to type. And what I want to present here now is the words of the children who still don't speak. We knew them from kindergarten, we knew them in grade school, we took them through the Waldorf curriculum, not me, but the teachers. And Lakshmi and a group of us were helping to help this school learn a new way. And some of these children learnt after a certain period of time to type. And that's a big story, but I haven't got time to share that. What I'd like to do now is to show you some of the words. So actually, we'll maybe make the room darker so you can read. So the children are typing, the teachers are asking a question, and the children are typing their response, but they still don't speak. And I want to just let you read this in silence without me speaking. Of course, the translators can speak, but I will just show you these slides. Because this was my question. What is it like to be you? What is it like to be you? What is your experience? So by now these children are in 15 to 17, 18 years old. So Sabari is sitting and chewing a cushion and dribbling and not speaking and moaning and rocking. And this is actually his experience, that it gives him comfort, and that he's also, I think you know this as kindergarten teachers, but he is interesting that he says, I can't feel my hands, but I hear a lot, I smell a lot, and I feel everything. And there's one more. We have many of these slides, many of these expressions from the children. But there was one that's very powerful for the teachers, and I wanted to give this to you. And this was Prasad, and he wrote the poem that goes on the back of our book, Autism, Meet Me Who I Am. Prasad wrote a poem to his teachers called Meet Me Who I Am. And we asked him this question. And these children, what was so amazing was what you see and what's living on the inside you would never expect. The first one who started to type, he was not coming to school, he was breaking things, disturbing the class, and then his parents were forcing him to come, and there was a big chaos. And then finally he went to the computer and he typed, I'm getting hairy legs. He was 13, 12. And I'm embarrassed, and I don't want to come to school unless I have some long pants. No one expects that. No one expected that. And once the parents found out and did that, he came to school and the behavior problem was gone. So this is what Prasad tells us, tells the teachers. It's so interesting that we spoke about the movement from the aesthetic to the ethic, to the moral ethic, to the inner aspect of the teacher's path, because that's what he says. We are bound to them. And these children, these boys who I've showed you, they call themselves Operation Love. And they feel that they're here to change the world. They're good, healthy adolescents. Where's Lakshmi? She disappeared. As I bring the other ones, please. Yeah. Do you want to say anything to this? Okay. So now I'm just going to show some very simple pictures that we use. If you imagine a child, and the child is speaking and moving and doing all the behaviours children do, it's very easy to see that and try to address that directly. But we're very interested, Lakshmi and I became very interested in this other side, the left side. Is a very simple picture, input and output. It's not really like that. But really to ask the nutrition question, what are the children eating? The rhythms of their daily life and all of the sensory environment. And of course, what does that mean? It means you have to talk to the parents. You see how the wall must open. And more than the parents, the grandparents, the whole environment affects the output. So we said to the teachers, that's you on the right, and to the parents, when we see these sensitive children doing these strange things in the classroom, instead of using our will in a way that's forceful, directing with what we see, can we actually think in a different way? And that's interesting because that's a social direction. We have to then ask for a parent meeting and maybe a doctor meeting, and maybe working with a therapist, and the extra lesson or the learning support people in your schools. This becomes an expanded community. Can you see that? When we ask this question. Otherwise, it's like what Florian said yesterday, you're just doing your hard work yourself. It might be very good work, but we need to expand. And this is what this picture says. So, okay, we're going to then come to the blackboard. Here is a picture of two people. If you think about the experience of these children, what they tell us about their body. I can't feel my hands. I feel everything else, but not my body. I wanted to draw that in the most simple way. So on the left, maybe, is you. And you're sitting there and you can feel your body and you can move your hand. You have a certain mastery between the consciousness in yellow and the body. But these children don't have that. So this is just a very simple platform for us to then bring some more pictures. But sometimes, like when the water spills, it swaps. It's quite possible. So Jessie, can we have the lights back on? I'll leave that there. And you can see I have the same picture here. Just take it back. Do you want to say something yet?
Is it done?
Yeah. I think we'll leave that so that at the back you can see it. Yeah.
So why autism? How is it relevant for this conference for us? I just want to see whether each one of us can take a moment and close your eyes and go deep inside and find something in you which you can say, this is autism in me. So for me personally in this journey, when I found where autism in me, and I wondered, how come I can hold this and not get diagnosed? I also watched myself in which situation, in what relationship, into which space, I feel free to bring my autism out. So I'm very grateful that I had few relationships in this life, starting from the time I was 3. I was loved for my autism in me. So into that space, I could bring that out. And rest of the world has seen me differently. But why do I need that? Because in that, I could hold my essence, which is yet to become, which is still becoming, and showing to the rest of the world my vulnerability. This is what I brought with me, and this is not yet complete. This has not yet become. And just when it becomes, I'll find something else which is going to become again. And just when I become that again, then I have one more which is just born, and it has to become again human. So this is what Rudolf Steiner referred to as unbornness. And he talked to us when he talked about future communities, future social order. He said, if only we look into what happens after death, that is not enough. And he wished that we also look into life before birth. And life before birth, where we understand that when I was born, whole of me was not born. And that little bit which was born at my birth, I'm struggling to make it something. Imagine that just if I become something out of what I have now, and then a door opens and some more comes in. And then I become, and some more comes in. Can you imagine that? So if I never close that door and always remember my pre-birth life, and if I always remember that I can be the co-creator here, how I created, with the help of universal beings, this body at the time of birth, I can continue to do it rest of my life. Constantly, I can be the co-creator, and that's the best song I can sing to the Creator, by imitating. That means I'm forever a kindergarten child. So kindergarten children leave kindergartens and go into the world and try to show what has become out of them. But when I go back home and fall on my knees and pray, I become the kindergarten child to the spiritual world again. So I receive something which I have to work with, and I have to become that. Am I making sense? Yeah. For me, this is the gift of autism. The difference between neurotypical and autism children is there are times we come into this so that we do our business in the banks and the post office, catching a train or a flight, or telling the air hostess what kind of tea you would like to have without having a meltdown. We need it. Yeah. But these children don't ever come into this because they know somebody else can do that. And these are future social structures. So can I carry my essence? Can I take help of all of you, 1,100 kindergarten teachers? All of you holding me in the moment when we both together spilled a glass of water. We can spill a glass of water because we trust that there are so many people who are very good in cleaning. Last night we watched it. So we also have remote e-cleaning, fast cleaning, all kinds of cleaning. Yeah. We knew it last night, we slept with it, so we took the courage to spill the water. So these children come to us and show us, you can deal with it. Yeah. You can deal with it. If you can't deal with it, go and pray. Get onto your knees and get something which is not yet born in you and become that. And just when you become that, I'll show you something more to do. So I keep you on this business all the time, and very creative. And out of that came the whole story. Because what you have seen, the children who are now facilitated communication, who are typing with the help of a teacher, and that was already 3 years ago. And then last 3 years, they have grown bigger, and they're writing to us constantly, and they give different lectures to Michael, different lectures to me. They even now do individual emails, no more group emails. Yeah. They individualized both of us. Yeah. What they have to tell him, what they have to tell me, is different already. Yeah. So they're growing. Are they growing? Are we growing? Yeah. Am I talking about them? Am I talking about us? Am I talking about? We both are, all of us. This is the world which I want to take you into. Shall I go a little bit more? So we started working with the nutrition. Of course, I was a perfect neonatal intensivist and a developmental pediatrician. So I was very, very adamant that I'm going to incarnate them into their body so that they can become independent in their limbs. That was my business in the first few years. Yeah. Yeah. And we did well. Of course, parents were happy, we were very happy, but that was not enough. Because they were also very interested in what happens between me and Swapna. what happens between me and the therapist, and how social I am, being an intensive leader to the rest of the staff, nurses, special educators, therapists. How do I work with all these people? As they were digesting their food, they also needed to have a world which they can digest. How well I digest my food, that well I digest the world around. So do I make the food digestible, or do I make the environment digestible? Do I make the sensory environment digestible? Do I make the non-sensory environment digestible, my feelings and my thoughts? Do I also make the space between us digestible for them? Yeah. If we both are working together and we don't recognize our karma and what we agreed to do for each other, it is indigestible for this child. Till we wake up and say, oh my God, I already agreed to digest that part of you to me. So as children are doing transubstantiation with the physical food, we needed to do transubstantiation in our relationships. We needed to chew at our colleagues and coworkers, spit them out, because it's not easy to digest them. And we needed to become cows to ruminate and to have many child studies, not about children, but a difficult coworker. Yeah, but not about child any longer, because coworker has become more difficult than the child. Yeah. So we took the opportunity to become more and more artistic. We were really inspired by these children. If they can spit on us, we can also spit our soul on each other. Yeah, can we just wipe it and say thank you very much? Because when the child spat, I said, if a child is spitting on you as an anthroposophic physician, I'm deeply touched, because this child is asking us to meet me in my secretions. Deep in me, I recognize you. So just wipe it and go and teach in the classroom. This is what I told the curator educators. So they said, okay, we'll do it. And then after the class, we come and spit on you how we are feeling. Okay? You just wipe it and work with it. So we transubstantiated at a different level. The more we transubstantiated each other, the better the children transubstantiated the food. So then, fortunately, I could become less rigid. Before that, don't give this, don't give that, only this farmer can grow that, only that shop can do it, only this cook can cook, only that much we have to pay to the cook, only this person can take the child to the toilet, not this clothes, not that, not this bag. I was a rule book. And then, yeah, we together were big rule books, me and Swapna. But then we relaxed. We could breathe. The more we did this work, the less we needed to work with the child's sensory and digestive element. So our focus went more and more into how do we digest each other. And it became more and more complex, and it became more and more wider, expansive, till we started going into transgenerational karma. It was not enough to work with children, we worked with the parents. Not enough to work with the parents, we worked with the grandparents. Not enough to work with the grandparents, we needed to heal the grandparents' biography for 7 generations. Not enough. So that's when I came across this amazing song. This is from the land from where I come, and this is one of the favorite songs of Mahatma Gandhi. And this song was written by a poet in 15th century in Gujarati, hometown of Gandhi. And this poet is writing a song and talking about human beings who are yet to come. And his dream, his wish, was to see one such child. And I give a very brief description about this child. There comes in future a human being who can take everybody's pain, and not with any vanity, not even realizing that he or she is taking the pain of everyone. So this poet was already referring to empathy, which Rudolf Steiner prepared us to meet 100 years ago. And this poet says, bless the parents who give birth to such individual. When they give birth to such individual, 75 generations are healed. Are these 75 generations past, present, future? He didn't say that. I don't know. But you can ask. You can ask this question. What change this child is asking us to make now, and what dream we can have? And this poet wished to see such a child, and his dream came true. Many, many centuries later, his dream came true. So these children are children and the consciousness and the structures and the situations on earth which were dreamt many centuries ago. These are our future. These children are preparing us. How do we hold this consciousness soul in future in this limited body, in this little box? Right now they are jumping out of the box. We have a choice to tell them, just fit into this box, or we have a choice to make the box bigger. Yeah? And that's for me social. If I have a biggest circle possible, I can bring this expansive consciousness soul, which can be held in this huge big circle. Last night, with our lamps, all around. And what a circle we made. What contributions we brought. And who does not want to come into that circle? And spiritual worlds must have been very busy last night, Holy Week, and they'll be very busy next 2 nights to think, whom can we send next? If that is the circle human beings can hold, wow. We can send a very big, expansive being in the consciousness. So my question now, I leave it to you and leave it to Michael, now is, does this box need to be only my human physical body? Or do we have in our physiology, already we put it into our physiology, into this beautiful human organism, this beautiful, Rudolf Steiner calls human body condensed spirit. So I don't have to go anywhere to meet spirit. It's here. I already have this system which is placed, which can become bigger or smaller. Every breath I take, I can expand or I can contract. My limitation of my expansion is limitless. I don't see limitation in my expansiveness. Till somebody comes and says, sorry, my foot is under your foot. Yeah. Even then I had the cheek to say, but how did you put your foot under my foot? So that difficult I was all my life. Yeah. So it took a long time for me, a lot of pain in my life to say, I could have put my foot on your foot. Yeah. I'm still coming to that. Because I still believe that we already agreed that your foot is going to be under my foot. Don't you remember that? Yeah? So you're going forward, I'm going backward, and I'm saying, do you remember pre-birth activity? We actually agreed that I do this to you. Oh my God, we need to celebrate it now. Yeah? So I put it here and I remember it and we recognize it and we remember this. Yeah? Can we celebrate this moment? Forget whose foot is what, where. There's no power game. There is no higher, lower. There is no under, above. There is no your foot and my foot. I work with Camp Hill communities where I go and tell them, it's 4 degrees outside, you have to put the gloves on so that your hands are warm. Is it? Yeah. And she looks up in the sky, is it 4 degrees? Yeah. Do I have to put the gloves on? Yes. Are hands freezing? Yes. Okay, now can you put the gloves on? She said, no. Why? Because these hands are not mine. Okay. Will you let me put the gloves on your hands? You're free. You're free. You're free. Out of 1,100, one person was free to come and wipe the mess we made. How did she know that it is her karma and we agreed? Yeah? Or do we still balance? And then next time she messes up, I'm there. I don't know. So this is something which I wanted to leave for you to think, but then now we go into practical, physical with Michael's help.
We'll do it together. I'm beginning to think that I planned to spill that water, actually. So, okay, if we can, and you can see this picture for those at the back, and all the examples, the gloves, this lady who says they're not my hands. We're trying to show this, because educating the child is about the physical body, okay, to actually do something. Yet, we have a philosophy of freedom. And so these arrows here are, even as you said, Lakshmi, you know, she as a doctor was like, I tried to incarnate them. It's interesting to say that, isn't it? We talk about incarnation. And I was trying to use my hands to help them, you know, arrive in some way. And these arrows here are sort of suggesting the way of force. And, you know, I think it's even possible in a beautiful Waldorf kindergarten to be forceful, right? With children. In a subtle way. And I think these children, when we allow them to be free, we realize their attention and their awareness is elsewhere. And this is where I learned from Lakshmi. I was more oriented, I mean, you can see, I was oriented, what's happening in these bodies? And Lakshmi was asking, what is the impact of that spilled water? You know, what do these children create socially? And that's what I'm trying to draw here for those at the back is lightning, surprise, sometimes conflict, and completely polarized viewpoints. Don't you find so many times that these sensitive children polarize teachers and parents? The parents want you to do something and you won't do it. This happens so much in terms of behavior. So we have this chaos in the soul realm. But when I watched Lakshmi, she walked into that chaos like this. What can we do with this? It was so interesting for me to watch that, because this is really a ripe field for something, but what? And I just want to share, if I build this picture, for me personally, okay, we have a picture of the soul here and the physical body here. What happens at the next level, if I really, and when Sylvia was speaking yesterday, I thought, goodness, this is a similar picture. Here's me in my physical body, and here's this sensitive child. I'm struggling with this child. I don't know what to do. And it's causing a lot of problems. A lot of problems for a whole lot of things. And I need to somehow handle myself and climb some kind of staircase inside to reach a new perspective, which I might call spiritual. So, can you see the lighthouse? That's you, maybe. And when we started this conference, Philip read to the facilitators this quote from Rudolf Steiner that you can't think the oven to be warm. You have to create the conditions and do something and get the wood and make the fire. And I think that's a fire. But it's not so much here. We raise this fire by some inner activity in our souls. And Rudolf Steiner gives us so many ways to do this. And our schools have so many rhythmic structures to do this. Meetings, festivals, and ways of being together. But really, this is my individual, it's up to me as an individual. No festival makes this happen. No faculty meeting makes this happen, just by itself. So if I do this, then the child is also here. In my experience, if I say what happened in my little room, I had one room with one table and my hands listening, and these children don't speak, don't even look at you. Most of the time they're hiding. And sometimes when I did this, I had this experience, and it is interesting if you read the mainstream literature about autism, all the books and all of the perspectives, so many people say these are special children. These are not people with a spiritual orientation. Yeah, these are indigo children, or these are angelic children. Have you seen these books? These perspectives? They're coming out of the mainstream, they're coming from the world. People realize something magical about these children. And I can remember, how do I draw that? I think it just has to be this. I can remember one child, for example, usually after the water is spilt and after the chaos of the soul conflict, in some way, one boy, he was Abhishek, someone from our school, in those children. There was one moment when he just looked at me. And that was a completely open eye contact that I will never forget, because in that meeting of his eyes and mine, something else was present. And if I think of all those children who I've worked with over the years, it's like they form a passageway where the quality of that encounter is the same, but each child is different. So it's hard to put it into words. When we meet at this level, the I, and in many ways we also had to do this. We had a lot of this. This is our story too, and I'm sure it's your story. What happens is somebody else comes and turns up. Some other beings are present. I'll draw them as stars. Maybe someone else is there in the meeting. It's not just me and the child. It's a spiritual encounter. That's why I remember it so deeply. And I'm sure you have these memories, these moments. In fact, they're not memories, they become eternal. You know these children, and you know the ones who've touched you. And then I began to ask, if this is a child who's alone on the earth, not speaking, not coming into the circle, not coming into the circle on the earth, and I want them to come into the circle, then, or maybe, when I make this lighthouse myself, and I have this meeting, this is curative education, when the eye of the teacher meets the eye of the child. I'm trying to describe it. It's not easy. It lives here. That's actually, for me, a very social moment. It's not, and I ask, who is being antisocial? From a spiritual perspective, this child has led me to a social moment on the spiritual, wordless, invisible space. Once that happens, then I have a lot of possibilities to help both of us to bring this to the earth. And I'll say very quickly, because I want Lakshmi to speak more, one way to look at this is we have 4 senses here. We have 4 senses here. We have 4 senses here. We then have a possibility to have a meeting, and then out of what happens, we have 12 possible ways to express that on the earth with the child. And I think that then leads us to the social question. But I think the finger came up.
No. We tried together. We have less time. But I'm saying they are not 4, 4, 4, but I'm saying 7 and 5. Future social structures. So will you help drawing so I try and speak? Yeah. So those of you who know 12 senses, come with me. We're going to do it very quick, 5 minutes. Michael is going to draw, I'm going to speak. So if I'm seeing someone, my sense of vision, and through my sense of vision, I can have a taste, which is going deep inside me. I feel good about you, I don't feel so good about you. Or I can also feel warmth. To feel warmth, I need to go into the other. I need to go into you. Because my warmth organism is connected to your warmth organism. So I'm already going into you, into the other. On the other hand, I'm going into me through the taste. And if I go lower, lower into me, into my smell, I smell something between us. I go and experience myself in my physical through my lower senses, through how I feel in my physical body. And this way is 5 senses. From sense of vision, if you go down, 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 you're with me in this. If I go quick in this, sense of taste, smell, balance, sense of self-movement, life sense, sense of touch. Yeah. So come with me on the other side. I make a little bit longer journey into you. This way, I'm going only 5, and that way, I go 7. Yeah? So I can also do equals 6 and 6, so that we are very good, balanced people. But I can also choose that in the service of meeting the other, in the service and commitment I made to meet the other, I use whole of me, or most of me, or more of me in meeting the other than meeting myself. So what happens if I use all 12 senses to meet the other? I become autistic. But if I just use my 5 senses to stay in my body, in my lower senses, and in my life, because I know that this child's sense of life is poor. So I am staying in my lower senses in service of the other, not because I want to be with myself. I stay in my lower senses in my body because I know that this child cannot sense his own movement, cannot balance his movements, getting into chairs and tables and walls and then spitting everywhere, not able to digest food, not able to sleep, not able to hold the limbs in place. So that's my strength. Only to serve the child, I stay in me. I stay in me doubly so that I can lend my power to the child. So I'm talking about, am I staying with me because I'm selfish? Or I'm staying in my body because I'm selfless? Yeah. So how do I know it? Yeah. And on the other hand, through the sense of vision, what I see in you, and I feel warmth towards you, I feel your thoughts, I feel you, and I hear the word which you never spoke. You don't have to speak to me because I hear it all the time. No autistic child need to speak to me because I hear it. I hear it the night before they come to see me in the clinic. And then I see them. And then I lose my consciousness. I hear it from behind. I see it in front. And I'm changed forever. This is the meeting with autism child. So I hear them even without speaking. And I meet the being. When I meet the being of the child, I meet the being of me. And I am meeting being of me standing in my lower senses. So all the way, I start here not halfway, I'm starting a little bit below the halfway. Less of me, more of the other. My interest is in the other. I'm already saying I can sleep to myself so that I can invite you into me. Because I become you, I know exactly what to do with my body, which you came for a special purpose and you cannot do it. These children wrote to us saying, I can't speak, I have some things to tell you, but the laws of karma don't allow me to speak. Wow. Okay, then you don't speak. I will learn how to hear you even when you're not speaking. For that, I need to change my constitution. Many philosophers and contemporary to Rudolf Steiner and Dr. Ita Beckman, Sri Aurobindo spoke about it. He said, essence of vision is future. So I start from my vision. I start how I look at you, already changed. Do I look at you for here in the physical, or do I look at you for who you were before you came? So this is what children told us. Before we wrote the book, I wrote to them, I asked them, what is it that me and Michael did which helped you? We're going to write a book. So they wrote two things. Number one, you both came and looked at us, and the way you looked at us, what you saw in us, who we really are, you saw in us in a way that we could see what you saw. And you did it for whole 10 years. Even though our teachers were saying we were difficult, we need to be fixed, every time you came, you saw the same thing. You saw the same thing which you saw in the first meeting. Rudolf Steiner's loyalty verse. We get to see once, and we lose it. Can we make a commitment to remember that and be loyal to what we have seen in that meeting, which Michael described so beautifully? That one meeting. That one meeting. Can I be loyal to that one meeting? Wherever you are after that, rest of your life, however lost you are, wherever you fall, with whatever beings you're dancing, can I remember that? This is what children said. What you saw us, who we came here to become, is what we could become 10 years later, because every time you came, we saw what you saw in your seeing. So this is, for me, social. Social is really to say my 12 senses configuration, your 12 senses configuration, let's mix it up. And I see something, and I'm speaking, and Michael hears it and puts it his image. The whole book is about it. I spoke. I saw something, and I spoke in words, and he heard it, and he made his images, and he put it in the book. Did you see the cross? Sharing here. This is social for me. The future social is sharing the senses, sharing the physical through breath and sensory experiences. This does not need physical. This needs a transformed physical. This needs a physical which is living and growing. because these children need to live and grow with what they have seen inside them, inside the organism. So this becomes soul substance. We share the soul substance. They're so busy digesting soul substance, they don't care how they digest gluten, milk, carbohydrates, high protein diets, vegan, raw food. Yeah. Give us something more interesting to eat and digest. Soul substance. Yeah. Not just the physical substance. Whatever physical, make it alive, make it soul substance. Make it soul-filled by taking it ascent. Because as we ascend, we are entering from physical to soul to spirit. So take these sensory experiences and take it up, and then, like Michael showed us, bring it down. So this is how I see the future from 44466 to 57. Yeah, you can even make it 111. Yeah. And if you want to make it 12-0, you can make it. When we spilled the water, that was totally 12-0. We didn't even run and get the cloth. Somebody else did it. Yeah. What did we both do? We enjoyed the dry surface. Yeah. We didn't fall down. We didn't have any accident here. Even though we did something for which we are totally responsible for the consequences. We spilled the water. But our sister did it. This, for me, is social. Beyond taking responsibility for the consequences, but recognizing that you do half and I do half, and then you sing half a line and I finish it. So that's what I wanted to say.
Good. Almost done. 5. Thank you. Okay. So that's, I just want to speak about this journey now, because in my experience, we all have these meetings with the children. And then we get excited, and I say to Lakshmi, oh my God, he looked at me for 10 seconds. Can you believe? And I'd say to Swapna, he stopped doing this. In the whole hour, he didn't do it once. He'd made something with beeswax into a cube. Like, we would dance. But then what happens is, it goes away. It goes away. These children, when you have this success, it's temporary. It's a moment at first. As she said, can we remember this and say that's the reality? That's the truth. Not all of these behaviors that we see, all these things, I mean, Rudolf Steiner would have not used the word attention deficit disorder. I can guarantee he would have not enjoyed this language. He would have asked, where is the attention of this child? If it's not in the body, where is the attention? It must be somewhere. If they're not communicating with words on earth, then where are they communicating? They definitely are communicating. They definitely have a lot of attention, but it's not expressing itself here. It's expressed on a spiritual level. Once we know that, once we trust that, then we come to this place and we know what to do. And then we tell our friends, and our friends sometimes don't believe us. Sometimes the parents don't believe us. This is difficult. And this takes us to the next point. And I think I'd like to finish. There's maybe Lakshmi, and there's me, and maybe this is you, and your teacher assistant, and the mother and the father, and we're in a circle around the child. But the child isn't here. Their physical body is here. But where are they? Now she's gone quiet. It's coming. And we could see this 5 and 7 here, actually. The earth and the spiritual world. But if we really, and this is what this conference has been so wonderful, I heard so many wonderful ways for us to dance together on the first day. And this beautiful quote that we can only move forward when we think in a circle. I'm amazed to hear that so often because that's our conclusion before we got on the plane. This is what the children made as a social structure. Lakshmi didn't make it, I didn't make it. The children made it not from here, but from here. I don't even know how to draw. I'll draw them like that. They made it from here. They made the social structure. They made us change the social structure. And when we did this, and this is trying to show the invisible relationship between us expanding beyond this wall of the kindergarten and the parents. But actually to open this up, we heard many ways to do this week, didn't we? So many ways. And examples of how this was done. Once we do that, we create something which is real substance. It's a warmth ether substance. And more than that, it's even a stellar substance. And when the child senses that, can you see this? Then they come. And they can come into the circle. And that's not force. That's not force. There's only one word for that, and that's grace. It's grace. And when the children come gracefully into the space here, through this bridge that we make, then that's real. So don't, there's a big tendency in the mainstream to exclude these children, to take them away from the beautiful classroom because they spill the water. It's more I'm Greek actually. And in Greece, before you drink, and it's Easter, it's a very powerful time for a Greek person, before we drink for any festival, we actually spill the water. Or sometimes it's the wine. And we do that consciously. We pour it onto the ground to remember those people who are in the spiritual world who have died. So maybe this was, you're supposed to drink, you're supposed to sip, drip a little bit and keep it for yourself. But maybe this water that was spilled, look, it was so powerful last night that we walked on Easter Thursday to remember Rudolf Steiner, who opened up this knowledge for us. And so I guess I'd like to close by saying, you read it, it's yours. I didn't see this yet, but I guess if she wants me to read it, do you want me to read it? Stay here. Yeah, I'd like to remember Rudolf Steiner, and maybe this is the way. Would you introduce what this is?
This is Rudolf Steiner for Ita Weckman on 24 December 1920.
Okay. The human being is a bridge between the past and future existence. The present is momentary. This moment is a bridge. Spirit turned to soul in matter's shell. It comes from the past. Soul turning to spirit in seed encased, its future bound. Grasp the future through what has been. Hope for what will become through what is complete. So seize what is in what will be. So seize what will be in what is. Thank you.